Thank you so much for giving time today. My name is Dr. Tadi. I'm one of the stroke neurologists, and today I have opportunity to have some time to an interview to discuss about Krishna consciousness with Dr. Rochford.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So, you told us the brief story of how you interested in Krishna consciousness is because during your graduate student time you have to select a research topic. So, tell me your initial years experience of studying this movement.
Well, it was doubly hard for a couple different reasons, actually. One, the most obvious thing, of course, I was young. I was a new graduate student. I had never done research before.
Okay.
So going out and studying probably any topic would have had its challenges just based on inexperience. But going to ISKCON and studying ISKCON in the mid 1970s was particularly difficult because of just the way that the devotees responded to me. They never really saw me in the beginning as a legitimate researcher.
Okay.
They thought, I can remember, I guess, a story that may sum this up. First of all, I was very anxious about going and doing the study with the Krishnas because I knew right from the beginning that they were going to try to convert me, and that worried me. I was very anxious about that because I didn't know anything about them except things that I read in the press, and so that wasn't anything that I was interested in, and I was very worried about it. And so when I first went, most everybody I went and saw or talked to in the community in Los Angeles, I pointed out within a matter of seconds, oh, I'm a graduate student at UCLA doing research on the Hare Krishnas in Los Angeles, hoping that they would accept that description. And one day when one devotee said to me, after I had made that announcement, he said, "Yes, Prabhu, we all have our stories, but we know why you're really here." That Krishna had sent me, and so I could think anything I wanted to think, but they weren't buying it. So they weren't buying it. So the issue for me is that they were treating me as a convert, and I was very uncertain and very anxious about that. And so it was hard for my research because their whole approach to me was not to answer my questions that had research implications for me, at least that's what I thought, but rather they were trying to convert me in basically every conversation that I had. It was, about Krishna, about what it said in the Bhagavad Gita, things along these lines, which at that time, I just thought, well, no, I want some real substance, and I wasn't able to kind of see at that point that even in talking to me about Bhagavad Gita, that was substance, but I was not prepared to do it because I just sort of saw it as, oh, they're just angling to recruit me, and they legitimately were. One of the Donavir Maharaj, he was the Bhakta leader in Los Angeles at that time and ran the Bhakta ashram. They had a separate ashram for new people. And he told me one time, he said, because I was slow in coming around from his point of view, and he said to me, he says, if you were just some kid off the street, I would spend a week or two with you, and if you didn't come around, then we would just, show you the exit sort of thing. And he said, but since you are, a graduate student and you seem to be a smart person, I'm willing to put more time in on you. So, this was the attitude, and this is the way that what I was confronting. So for me, it was enormously frustrating because I wasn't. I'm not even sure what I was wanting to get, but I wasn't getting anything that I was thinking was important. I almost left the research actually about this.
Okay.
I guess the fateful moment came. I'd stayed in the Bhakta program, Donavir's Bhakta program, a couple of times, and the second or third time maybe it was, I stayed overnight, and of course the devotees got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they were in the temple chanting before Mangal Artik, and I was refusing to chant because I thought to chant meant that that's what devotees do. They chant. I don't want them to see me as a potential recruit, so I'm not chanting. Okay. So this morning I was in the temple early, and all the devotees are, walking up and down in the temple chanting, and I realized they were looking at me as much as I was looking at them. And they would come up to me and say, "Are you chanting? Do you need some
This
beads?"
morning?
No.
Oh,
This was back then in LA. Do you want some beads to chant on?
Yes,
And I
yes.
politely said no. And it came to a point where I realized at that moment, if I didn't start chanting, that this project was likely to end because I was going to get no cooperation, right?
Yes.
That I had to kind of, even if it was just making a kind of a deal internally for myself,
Yes.
I thought, if I don't start acting in ways that they would like me to act, I'm not going anywhere here. It's just not going to work. And at that moment where I was contemplating that, one of the two devotees that I knew that introduced me to the community there came into the temple, and he comes over to me and he says, "Burke, do you have any beads?" And I said, "No, I don't have any." He says, "I've got an extra set of beads. Would you like them?"
Okay.
And I said, okay, very reluctant. So I had the beads. Of course, I didn't know anything at that point. I think I had them in my left hand rather than my right hand. I was, just nervous and confused. And then suddenly, devotees started coming over and showing me how to chant on the beads, how to hold the beads. Another devotee came over and said, "Would you like to water tulsi?" Of course, I had no idea what tulsi was, and I had no idea why I would even be watering this plant in the temple, and I had no idea why that plant would even be in the temple, actually. So he said, "No, come with me, I will show you." So I went over and I watered tulsi, and then suddenly the whole mood changed towards me. As soon as they realized that I was coming around, and that I seemed to be expressing some interest. Now people were willing to talk to me. I wouldn't say in an expansive kind of way for my research, but they were accepting me. And I knew I needed that acceptance to go anywhere in all of this. So that's how it started, and I would say it was very difficult for me, actually. It was very stressful, and the deal I ended up making was, or the reality I ended up facing was, I thought, okay, well, if they're going to treat me like a recruit, I probably ought to focus on recruitment to the movement. Because I was in the ashram with other young people that were just coming. And so that I should just focus on that as a focus, since that's what I was learning about anyway. So I turned that, the first thing I ever wrote on ISKCON was for this course in ethnography. It's sort of an embarrassing piece when I think about it. But that was the first thing I wrote, looking at the issue of recruitment in the movement, and recruitment in religious movements more generally, and new religious movements. And so that's the tact I took. And then once I started doing that, and people started knowing me and becoming friendly towards me, in time they began talking to me about other things. So, but even before that, at one point I thought, I've got to talk to some people that were in the movement that left. Because I thought, well, at least they will kind of tell me what I thought was more significant things to know, because they're out now and they may be a little more critical and they can speak more freely. So I looked for people for a period of time that had left the movement. I didn't find that many, in fact, but I did find a couple, and that was helpful. That was helpful. So that's how it started in the beginning, and essentially, and I'm telling you my whole history here, but when I chanted, then I realized I needed to chant in the temple so that people could visibly see me chanting. Then, after a little while, I was less self-conscious about chanting in the temple, right? So I wasn't there thinking, I have to do this because they want me to do this, and I have to do this because I want to stay and do my research. It just became more natural to do. Okay. So that was the beginning of kind of a personal association, but also something that then opened up the possibilities where people were, talking to me in ways that were, okay, he's kind of a devotee, or he's trying, or he's on the path to becoming. So their attitudes towards me became different.
Thank you so much for all the efforts, and as a fellow scientist and professional, I completely understand how tough it is to even conduct a research project, that the first research project.
Yes.
But you know what, the work you did, it is phenomenal and historical. Um, um, when did you met Srila Prabhupada?
I saw Prabhupada.
Okay.
He came to LA in 1976 in the summer, maybe in June. He came in the summer of 76, and I had started my research in the fall of 75.
Okay.
And I knew about Prabhupada, obviously.
Yes.
I knew the devotees talked a lot about Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, yeah.
But I didn't really really understand their relationship with Prabhupada until he came.
Yes.
And I was there when he came from the airport to the temple. And it was a really good time for me to be there because the devotees were filled with anticipation that Prabhupada was coming.
Yes.
There was so much anticipation and excitement.
Yeah.
And so the devotees were lined up on either side of the sidewalk going into the LA temple. And so I was there. And when he got out of the car, there was this explosion of energy. Explosion of energy.
Yeah.
And I was just captivated by just the energy that these devotees had. And at that moment, I understood the significance and the importance of Prabhupada to the devotees. He was there for, I would say, 2 weeks.
Yes.
I was a graduate student. They still saw me as a potential devotee. And so I was not a professor, so they didn't usher me in
Yes.
to meet with Prabhupada.